Pow, 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 pow. You know, there's massive people all getting angry together and try to make change via violence. That hasn't gone away. We've figured out how to get like robots to Mars, and we're still, but we still haven't figured out world peace. Hey, what is up, guys? John here, aka Bruce Lee. I got a special request to watch the Lady of Heaven trailer. It's my first time reacting to it. I have no idea what it's about, but I see some trucks here and maybe some guys with guns. I'm not too sure. Super excited, but first of all, guys, I want to say thank you so much for supporting the channel. This is the first time since I've started the channel a couple of months ago where I actually have like a backlog of requests from you guys to watch. So I think I have Prodigal Son, I have Young Master, I have Ong Bak. I have a few things, and don't worry, guys, they're in like a library. Like I have like a playlist of stuff I want to react to, so I'm not gonna lose track of it. But yeah, it's the first time that I had like a queue of things to do, which is absolutely awesome because it helps me make a decision on what to watch next. But also, I want to interact with you guys. Like these videos at the end of the day are for you first. So anyways, thank you again for that, guys. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing so that we can hang out together again. Let's get into this trailer, Lady of Heaven. Don't know what it's about, but my name is John, Bruce Lee, kickboxing teacher from Canada, and let's see what we think about this one. Alright.
The world is in shock as a group of terrorists has taken control of large areas of Syria
ISIS?
and Iraq.
The world can be a cruel and dangerous place.
Oh, that's some dangerous guns. So right off the bat here, you can actually gather a lot from this. So not only is that guy pulling out literally a light machine gun, and I assume some other assault rifles. Look at this guy right coming out of the truck here. He's also pulling out a camera. So they don't want to just like, this is like terrorism 101. They don't want to just like threaten people or like cause some violence or potential violence. They want people to see it. They want to send a message. They want people to know about it.
Remember, even if you're afraid, be strong.
Oh, she gets executed?
Your loving mother, Fatima.
Did your mother ever tell you the story of the Lady of Heaven? She was very special. Daughter to the Prophet Muhammad.
My time is
1400
near,
years ago.
and afterwards, my lovely Fatima, you will face many trials.
With my father no longer here to lead us, evil is with those who will extinguish the light of truth.
You're gonna let a woman tell us what to do? We will burn her!
I was kind of thinking that too, actually, of like, I'm surprised, I don't know the story of Fatima or the Lady of Heaven, per se. Obviously I know Muhammad, but I was kind of curious of whether, like, there weren't a lot of public figures in that age who were women, just because, naturally it's a bit more, just misogynistic at the time. So I was kind of surprised that if she had like a huge impact or was like a leader of something, being a female, because it's just so much more difficult with those prejudices in place. And as you can see, it's a classic, like I think they're about to try to burn her or burn her house or something, like the classic like mob mob burning the witch mentality, right? So pretty scary time, of course. Oh!
God will judge all of you.
This world has become a breeding ground of violence.
So I'm not laughing at the violence. I'm just laughing at this whole.
This world.
You see how they're like not in like specific lines here? What I learned recently about medieval combat is that would never happen. Like when you do an infantry charge, like you want to get the momentum and the mass of your your accumulated army to hit them at once. So there's a couple of reasons you got to do that. Designated lines. Like you want to move together, so you wouldn't sprint because like then like the fastest people would come out ahead first and just get killed, and the rest of the people would like fall back. So you want to move in like one line to hit them like a wall. And also like when you don't have specific lines, you end up like you don't know who's on your team or not. So it's not like Call of Duty where there's no friendly fire or like there's a red name that hovers over your enemy. So you really can't have like this like a loose line here. You really gotta like keep it organized so that you don't like start like killing each other like your own friends.
Has become a breeding ground of violence. last across many generations to come.
Okay. Ooh. So I think I'm starting to get what they're talking about here, of like they're trying to make some parallels between you know, just like faith and peace and just religion, or like, you know, let's say like spiritualism or like virtues. Like, there's a lot to be said here, and they're trying to make parallels between the ancient universe and today. So, you know, like a few seconds ago, yeah, they were fighting off horseback with swords and shields, and then today they're fighting with media, and they're fighting with bombs and blowing up cars and stuff like that. But there's a lot of you know, when you juxtapose those two things, I think there's a lot of similarities to be made.
It said some people are so full of faith. They give strength to everyone around them.
Oh, I think he had a bomb thing there, right? Let's see that again.
Some people are so full of faith.
Like a detonator?
They give strength to everyone around them.
The greatest thing in this life and the hereafter.
That's a cool representation of, I think, angels.
Is the spreading of peace in the world.
Lady Fatima's goodness inspired people to stand.
That's like a...
Lady Fatima's goodness
That's like a Skyrim helmet, hey? Dragonborn!
inspired people to stand up, no matter what the cost. Her legacy lives on.
Wow. So that was Lady of Heaven trailer, you guys. That was really interesting. So thank you for making me or having me watch this, I should say, because like this is not something that I would normally pop up in my feed, or like something that I would not personally seek out myself. So this is like, you know, kind of a different thing than what I would normally see if you guys didn't recommend this to me. And I think it's really interesting. Like no joke. The what I'm seeing here, at least from my perception, is that like there's a lot to be said about like the mob mentality that hasn't gone away. So like you think about, like, you know, in those clips of like the history, right, where they're like marching to a house and they have like, you know, a bunch of people with swords, and like there's 50 guys about to burn one woman for having like, I don't know, what is it, like views, or is it like having like too much of a voice or whatever. It sounds archaic and barbaric, but you know what, like a lot of that stuff, you know, it's the same thing in a different form today, like convincing kids, like you saw the detonator, to blow themselves up, or to act as, you know, suicide bombers because they're insurgents that are very difficult to root out, right? Or in the other case where they, you know, like a bunch of trucks rolled up to a playground just to shoot bullets in the air. Like, yeah, like those, you know, they're not aiming, in that particular scene they weren't aiming at people, but like those bullets, they'll, like, if you shoot them up, they eventually fall, and they don't care about the damage, right? Like a lot of people, like back in the olden days of like cowboys, like a lot of people, like, you know, they're like pow 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 pow. You know, there actually are cases or stories where like those bullets came down and killed people. You know, they didn't care about the damage they were wreaking, and they were, no less, they were filming it so they could post it on, so whether, you know, social media or news outlets or whatever. And when you think about how brutal and that is, it's almost barbaric in its own right. The only difference is that instead of like wood, they're using, you know, gunpowder. So that the whole mob mentality, like today, I think we see like one of the parallels I see from like even just this depiction of the trailer is that, like, you know what, like they talk about like Shakespeare's like Julius Caesar, right? They talk about in the very opening scenes, they talk about, guys, be careful of the mob. Do not underestimate the power of the mob and the public sphere. And we talk about, you know, those mobs, you know, in like Judeo-Christian times, right? Of like in the Bible, right? Or the Prophet Muhammad, like there were mobs back then too. And then in a way, there's mobs now, right? Like I'm not making a correlation between like, you know, like rioters and ISIS or anything like that whatsoever. But I'm just saying that, like, you know what? The accumulated mass of people all getting angry together and trying to make change via violence, that hasn't gone away. The only thing that has changed is like the tools we're using and the awareness we're using, right? Instead of pen and paper stapling into a bunch of different bulletin boards in Rome, or having criers of like, you know, great public orators and bards and speakers going up to like public squares and preaching or whatever it is, like, yeah, now instead of that, we have social media, right? We can text people, we can put it on Facebook, we can make a blog, we can, you know, in some cases it'll arrive on the news, and whether the news puts in a good or bad light, the message is getting out there. So, you know, just because, for example, when the news news outlets say, hey, ISIS is bad, they're terrorists, like, yeah, for, you know, there's some bias, they're saying it's bad, 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 but there's a few people that will still watch and be like, you know what, ISIS is right. So it's really dangerous. The kind of like the public sphere has changed there. But you know, this nature of like humanity's like hate or hating one another, I don't think has changed. So there's a reason why we're still talking about world peace in we're figured out how to get like robots to Mars, and we're still, you know, but we still haven't figured out world peace. So yeah, that's anyways, I'm starting to ramble on, but there's a lot of different ideas I get from that trailer alone, so I'm excited to see what this movie has in store, not only for myself, but maybe get some ideas out there just to the broad audience of the world. And I'm glad this is in English, or like they must have like good English actors for it if it's dubbed over, because I think there's a lot of it reaches a lot of people in English, so hopefully they translated a bunch of other cultures and stuff like that. But I think when I think of like this type of culture, you know, I think it's misrepresented in some cases, like, you know, Muslim cultures, or just like any, like, you know, wearing turbans, or like those old school, like, you know, let's say like Middle Eastern cultures. I think they get misrepresented a lot, or there's not enough exposure of that here in the West. You know, I'm from Canada, so I'm just talking about like Canada, United States. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the culture here that hopefully this movie is gonna shed some light on. So anyways, that's a big ramble, I know, guys, just for a trailer, but these are the stories that are important. So again, really glad I watched this, you guys. Please comment below any other trailers or movies or fight scenes you want me to react to, whether it's from the perspective of like a kickboxing teacher or a fitness instructor or whatever, or in this case just another human being. You know, I'd love to get my thoughts out there. So hopefully I'll see you again. Please consider liking and subscribing, and Bruce Lee is out. I'll catch you next time.